Now, I have a wonderful, fantastic girlfriend now. We are fast approaching our 3-year anniversary. We're talking about a wonderful future together. Our relationship gets better and better, largely because we spend a lot of time consciously working on it and having great communication. But that wasn't always the way. Before I met my current girlfriend, I had another girlfriend, a lovely girl, beautiful, wonderful in a lot of ways, very smart. And our relationship was awful in a lot of ways. Because the one thing this girl didn't have was the confidence to know how I actually felt about her. And it seemed like every day or every few days, she would come to me and she would say, Michael, do you really love me? How do you really feel about me? You should want to do this for me, if this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And personally, it pushed me away. And worse than that, it caused me to stop feeling as attracted to her. Because what happened in my own mind, in my own heart, was every time I thought about showing her some kind of affection, every time I thought about saying, I love you, every time I thought about doing something nice for her, a switch in the back of my brain kind of went off, and I said, well, if I do that, what's the reaction going to be? If I say, I love you, she's going to say, do you really? If I do something nice for her, she's going to say, well, what does this really mean? Why are you doing this now? And her insecurity really, to me, was what stuck a dagger in the heart of that particular relationship. Now, since then, we've both moved on. I think I'm better suited with my current girlfriend. She has a husband who they seem to get along quite well. I know them both, and they're quite great. But I just want you to understand how powerful and how devastating that insecurity really can be. We're going to talk about where that comes from a little bit more, maybe in some of the questions we do later. But it's let it be known that insecurity and desperately needing a man to show you and tell you, I love you, I love you, I love you, and prove it in wonderful ways, can be really toxic to a relationship. Concept number 2, it's impossible to be loved unless you love yourself first. A lot of women fall into the trap of putting all of their self-worth and self-esteem into their man. And this is way too much pressure to put on a guy. If you don't like yourself, love yourself actually, it's going to be almost impossible to have a lifelong committed relationship with a guy. As I always say, a man can't make you happy any more than you can make him happy. But you can help each other along the way. One of the ways I kind of talk about this is people say, well, why can't you make me happy? Or why can't I make him happy? I always say it's kind of like saying, I'm going to make you have an orgasm. That always seems strange to me. To me, it should be, I'm going to help you have an orgasm instead, because I don't think I can make you actually do that. But the important part here is just to understand that your self-esteem, liking yourself, seeing yourself as lovable, seeing yourself as somebody who is worth being loved and worth being pursued and worth being fought for, is the single most important thing to actually finding somebody who really can love you. And in a lot of ways, just so you know, your man's happiness is not your responsibility. And your happiness is not actually his responsibility either. It's not your responsibility to make your partner happy. It's your responsibility to be a great partner, to be a great girlfriend, to be a great wife, to be a great whatever you're going to be from there. Okay? Concept number 3 is men aren't women, and we don't show our love the way women do either. I know this seems really obvious. Men aren't women, right? But let's get into it. There's a great quote from a guy named Dr. John Gray. He's the guy who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. I think some of his stuff is great. Some of it's not so great, but he does have one fantastic quote which says, women treat men like incompetent women, and men treat women like incompetent men. To me, that's both hilarious and true. One of the reasons so many women spend all their time in Anxietyville is because they want their guy to express love the exact same way they do and get furious when they don't. But men aren't women, and we don't communicate the exact same way women do either. As long as you spend your time thinking, a lot of women make the mistake, by the way, of going up to a guy and saying, I want to talk about our feelings, or I want to talk about our relationship, which causes guys to shrivel up and run for the football field or whatever they're going to do to get away. It simply doesn't work. Concept number 4 is that love means different things to different people, and this is going to be really important. So if you're taking notes, please pay attention here. Love is like snow. Every flake is different. Actually, we should really have different words for what we mean by love, because love can easily get mixed up with lust, companionship, respect, fear of being alone, and even obsession. Let's talk about what love means to too many women. And I know this because of the sheer number of emails we get every single day with women asking about this kind of thing. It seems to me that the word love, when a lot of women say, does he really love me? What they're really asking is he obsessed with me like that vampire from Twilight? Does he desire me and only me? Would he protect me from dragons? Does he think about me all the time? Does his penis shrivel up if he even thinks about another girl? Will he be mine forever and only mine? Does he love me? Whew. But basically, it seems to be a level of obsession, an incredible level of passion. They want men who think about them all the time, who have no other life outside of their actual desire for that woman, who are basically, in my opinion, stalkers. Now let's talk about what men often mean by love, and it's quite a bit different. What men often mean by love is, do I like how I feel when she's around? Or am I satisfied with her? Or does the idea of her with somebody else make me want to rip the head off a buffalo and wear it as a hat? Jealousy can be, in some cases, an indicator of love, as long as it's not too intense. If you're with a really jealous guy, you should get away. Now, I'm not saying that men aren't capable of deep and abiding love. I personally love my girlfriend in a very powerful and intense way, but even though I'm incredibly in love with her, I don't actually think about her all the time, especially when I'm working and things like that. I'm just saying a man's love usually is not of the crazy stalker variety some women seem to need to prove he's in love with her, and which would get him thrown in prison if it happened in real life. And this brings us to what I call the gap. Mind the gap. Now, if you've been to London, you know what the mind the gap thing is. Women want obsession and devotion, and men want appreciation and respect. Fundamentally, what a man really wants in a relationship is a woman who respects him for who he is, who is not constantly trying to change him, who is not constantly trying to transform him into something that he is not, and possibly could never be, by the way. And I feel the same way for men. Men should not be trying to change their women into something they cannot be either. But to be happy, both sides need to give a little or a lot and learn to read the signals the other is giving off. If you do it right, you'll fit together like a puzzle piece. If you do it wrong, you'll fit together like puzzle pieces from a different box or whatever it's going to be from there. Now, I'm not saying it's all on you. Sometimes women write me and say, Michael, why do I have to be the one to do all the work? Why do I have to be the person to change, et cetera, et cetera? I'm not saying it's all on you. I'm not saying that you're the person that has to do everything. I'm not saying that insecurity and difference of opinion on what love is means it's the whole problem. It's you and only you has to change. What I am saying is there are certainly women who find themselves in relationships with assholes, douchebags, and users who don't really love them, but are just keeping them around for sex, money, and a warm body to sleep next to at night until somebody better comes along. The key, as a woman who wants to be happy, who deserves to be happy, is learning to tell the good from the bad, to run from the players, douchebags, and users, and to make sure you don't push the great guys away by mistake. I get a lot of questions from women every single day saying, Michael, where are the good men? Where are the men who are respectful, the men who are faithful, the men who are, just great boyfriends, great husbands? And personally, I know dozens of them who can't seem to find a woman to have a great relationship with, because a lot of women are either looking for a Prince Charming who doesn't really exist, or who are falling for players, douchebags, other men who are not treating them well. Okay, now that we've covered those core concepts, and I hope you took notes on them, let's talk about the 7 simple questions to let you know if he really loves you. And actually, for this part, I want you to get out a piece of paper, or open up a text edit program on your computer or something like that, and keep score as we go. And if you're in a relationship, what I want you to do is I want you to actually give yourself a score as you go down. Think about your boyfriend, think about your husband, think about that guy you're dating, and just mark down when you feel like you got a point and when you didn't feel like you got a point here as we're going on. And some of this might be kind of devastating. It might create a little anxiety in your chest as you're doing it, because you might say, oh my God, am I going to find out something I don't want to know? But please, while we're here, we're safe here. Nobody else is going to know what you're doing. Play along with me, and we'll kind of go from there. And some of these questions, by the way, are going to seem kind of obvious at first, but I guarantee you've never done this before, and I guarantee that if you actually go through this process with me, you'll be pleased with the results. So question number 1, does he actually say, I love you? Duh, right? Now, whether a guy actually says, I love you or not, is not the be-all, end-all. Sometimes when I talk to women in kind of a coaching program or some other stuff, they'll lay out this entire relationship they have, and they'll say, well, how do I know if he loves me? And I'm like, well, it's very obvious from what you told me